All right, good morning. This is Marcus Rogers in EDOL 538, which is the Modern Secondary School. This is my midterm project in which we are supposed to pick out an instructional strategy and then suggest it to our classmates, and it should be catering towards secondary schools. So I believe this would work for both middle and high school. Might be able to find some use for it in elementary school, depending on how tech savvy your elementary school students are, which these days is pretty good. But definitely good use for middle school and high school. The instructional strategy I want to focus on today in my presentation is the use of simulations inside of the classroom. So exactly what do I mean when I say a simulation? My definition of it is a simulation is a real-world virtual experience for students to practice and apply the content knowledge to real situational style applications. I made that up off the top of my head. However, this one is a little bit better, and I'm pulling this from a article online which I have cited on this slide and also at the end on slide 11. But it says simulations are instructional scenarios where the learner is placed in a world defined by the teacher. They represent a reality within which students interact. The teacher controls the parameters of this world and uses it to achieve the desired instructional results. Students experience the reality of the scenario and gather meaning from it. So in short, a simulation is where students are pretending that they are in a real life situation and in turn turn it around and using content knowledge that they're learning in their class to apply it to that situation. Are simulations an instructional strategy? So that's an important question considering that our midterm project is to suggest instructional strategies. Well, first we have to know the definition of instructional strategies, which those are the techniques that teachers use to help students become independent, strategic learners. These strategies become learning strategies when students independently select the appropriate ones and use them effectively to accomplish tasks or to meet goals. So with that definition, yes, simulations are 100% instructional strategies. A simulation is a form of experiential learning. It is a strategy that fits well within the principles of student-centered and constructivism learning and teaching. And there is another source that I'm using. So here is a teacher testimonial. This teacher's name is Olivia, and she works at Tomahawk High School, and I believe that's in Texas. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. There's probably a couple of them across the nation, but this young lady is quoted as saying everything that they practice in the sim or the simulation they use to run the school store. Whether their future will be as an employee, a business owner, or a consumer, students will leave this class with a better understanding of how business really works. Then obviously on the right you see a photo of a teacher and a student using a simulation there in front of the class. It looks like they're working on some sort of retail environment there. Slide number 5, this is a photo from my actual classroom where you can see students on their own devices. My school is a one-to-one where every student has their own device, and we are using simulations. That's there in my personal finance course where students are working through, I believe that one was about purchasing a car with their own money in the simulation, of course. So it says, I do use simulations as a supplemental instruction to help aid other content. I use the simulations in 2-week chunks that I do 4 times throughout the year, which is about 25% of the classroom instruction time during the year. So what I don't suggest is that you use this only as the only instruction method that you use or instructional strategy that you use, but rather use it as a way to aid other curriculum that you already have. So I have a main curriculum that I use about 75% of the time, and then I use simulations about 25% of the school year to aid that other 75%. And this is a complete different change in pace and grading and style in which I teach, but the students like it because it keeps the class feeling broken up and in a good way. As far as like it not getting too boring, there's always, they know that those simulations are coming around the corner. So we basically do 7 weeks of instruction, 2 weeks of simulations, 7 weeks of instructions, 2 weeks of simulations. We repeat that 4 times throughout the 4 9-week quarters of the year. So on slide number 6, we're going to keep on moving. Which program do I use? You saw it pictured there on the young lady's screen right there. And we use a program called Knowledge Matters, and then inside of Knowledge Matters there's several different categories, and the one we use is called Virtual Business. So when you put it all together, what it's actually called, when I pull it up on my computer, it's called Knowledge Matters Virtual Business. However, there are several different things besides business that Knowledge Matters uses that are also simulations. Our school was awarded a 5-year grant, so we actually do not pay for this, and it is a pretty pricey program. It's about $2,000 a year if you get the full bundle, which you don't have to get the full bundle, but it is a couple $1,000s a year, and we received that for 5 years. We just finished the first year of it, so thankfully we still have it 4 more years. Will I purchase it again? As of right now, yes, I have all intentions to purchase it after this grant is up, to use some of our funding that we have in our business department to purchase this curriculum again, because it is so good and I do believe in it that much. What about correlation of standards? You know, everything we do needs to be tied to standards, and thankfully Knowledge Matters has already done that work for us. They do tie it to different standards, and on the left you can see which classes are taught just in the business section. So I'm going to show you that in a better view here. Which classes are offered? Virtual Business Knowledge Matters uses accounting, retailing, restaurant, fashion, hotel, personal finance, sports and entertainment, and management, all as classes that I can choose from. I use the accounting, the retailing, and the personal finance currently, and I'm exploring options of using restaurant and sports and entertainment as well. So to be determined on how that goes this upcoming year. But just to show you an example, for example, I pulled the what lessons are included in retailing. So if I were to show you the class content that this retailing is using, here are the lessons that are inside of that. You can see they're all very business-based lessons, but each one of those you can open up and it has different math quizzes, reading quizzes, content inside of it, and then the simulation. So it teaches the students what they need to know first, and then you can turn around and run the simulations, which is where the students can compete with one another, see who runs the business the best, how much money they make, how much money they lose, and all of these have different objectives or goals that the students need to try to meet. Slide number 9 of 11, we're almost done, hang in there. Would I suggest this instructional strategy to other teachers? Yes, I would suggest that if you can fit simulations into your classroom that you would utilize it. I found it to be very helpful for student engagement, student learning, and it's also a change of pace, which is nice. The only thing is I do not suggest that this be the only instructional strategy that you use. However, you should mix the simulations in as a supplemental curriculum to help kind of spice up the class and give it a nice sense of, you know, this is a student-centered activity and a good sense of student engagement going on. Slide number 10, here are some pros and cons of using simulations as instructional strategies. The pros: bringing a competitive edge to the classroom. My students love to compete against one another and see who can find the best bang for their buck in the simulation. Second one, allows students to apply content knowledge in real situations. Third, helps them understand if they want to work in business as a career. Yeah, a lot of students take this and they're like, whoa, I really don't like accounting, and I thought I did. I didn't know it was like this in the real world. Or vice versa. I didn't know I even liked restaurant business, and I love managing this restaurant on the computer. So maybe that's an area they want to go into as a career. And it allows grading to truly reflect student achievement. You know, there's really no way to cheat in simulations. Every click opens up a different kind of tree that you can go into. So every student's screen is different just a few seconds into the simulation, and it's really impossible to cheat off your neighbor. So that's always a plus. There are some cons, some downsides to it. The first one being it can be pricey and expensive to obtain good quality simulations. Some students may get done quicker than others just naturally, and that may cause some downtime. And then the last one, the simulation can only run as smoothly as technology does. So if your school struggles with Wi-Fi or networking or devices not being one-to-one, simulations are going to be tough because you don't have the technology there to support the simulations that you're wanting to run. So last but not least, there are my 2 sources that I referenced earlier on slide 3 and 4, I believe. So that does it. There's my midterm presentation on using simulations as instructional strategies. I hope you find this helpful and useful. If you have any questions, you can contact me, and you guys have a great day.